it's kind of a question of, do you want to make money or do you not want to make money?
You're getting on a lot more sales calls. You're going to onboard a lot more customers, and that's inevitable.
What was the slogan on your site?
LinkedIn marketing on steroids.
All right. You ready to do this?
Let's do this.
My name is Ivan Dimitrov. I'm founder of Leverage Video. For anyone who's watching this that doesn't know, we're a full-service video production company that creates video content for our clients all around Europe. We offer a full suite of services when it comes to video production, from concept creation, mood boarding, storyboarding, and script writing, through to filming and editing and post-production. This is episode 2 of our podcast. We did one podcast about a year ago, and our plan is to bring on interesting clients and partners that we interface with on a regular basis to bring value in all sorts of different fields. We're filming episode 2 of this podcast in Resonator Creative Technology Hub, which is located in Sofia, Bulgaria, and their fantastic podcast studio. And our guest of honor today is someone that I've been wanting to do a podcast with for a while, because I think that we're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Sitting across from the table from me is Liron, Bercovich, owner of digital agency Marlink. Marlink offers outbound SDR services for SaaS and high-tech businesses worldwide, with clients predominantly in the United States and Israel, correct?
Yep.
Liron, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ivan. Thanks for having me here today and setting up the entire podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I wanted to take you right back to the beginning of your journey in sales. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got into sales?
Yeah, so sales have always been a passion of mine. I'm a huge believer that sales is all about communication and communicating with people and getting your ideas across. So ever since I was young, I've been super passionate about sales, the industry, getting people interested in what I'm interested in about. I'm a very passionate person. So when I'm passionate about something, I want to get that across to people. So I would say I started my career at around 15 or 16 years old, when I would run and operate Shopify stores. Then I got more customer facing roles, selling specifically mobility scooters over the phone to US clients. Then I got my first job in tech, where I was in a hybrid SDR marketing role, specifically focused on marketing on LinkedIn, social enablement, and getting people to come and hear about what we're doing. And then we started Marlink.
Okay. And what can you tell, for anyone that isn't listening, what is an SDR? Because there's so many different abbreviations in the world of business and sales.
Right.
What is an SDR? And run us through some of the abbreviations that you're going to be using today, because there's going to be a lot.
Cool. Yeah. So I'll run you through the main abbreviations that we're going to be using here in the tech world. First of all, an SDR is a sales development representative, and their role in a company is basically to take people either that haven't heard about the company, or people who are an MQL, which is a marketing qualified lead, which means when someone has heard about the company, shows a little bit of interest, then the SDR's role is to take them to the next step and kind of bring them into the ecosystem of the company. Okay,
so Marlink was founded about a year ago, correct?
Absolutely.
What was the initial product offering? Like, what were you offering your clients to do for them?
So we actually started off as an outbound LinkedIn marketing solution, which meant we were focused only on LinkedIn. That was our only channel to generate leads for our clients. We were doing a little bit of graphic design as well. So basically helping people develop themselves and their brand on LinkedIn. And then we shifted into a strategy of more of a multi-channel approach. So now we do cold email marketing, we do LinkedIn outbound still, and we're heavily focused on phone calling as well.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the product offering that you guys have now in a little bit. But can you tell me, what was the need that you were seeing from your clients when you were working at the company that you were working at before you started Marlink? What were you doing for them, and what was the need and the place that you saw that you could fill as an agency owner?
Yeah, so at the previous company I was working at, I was the in-house expert for reaching out to people on LinkedIn. What we did differently in the company that I worked for versus what most people do, especially when it comes to outbound marketing, usually it's very salesy, and we would always take more of a soft sales approach. So rather than just telling someone, pitching them the company idea, having them jump on a call and trying to sell them, we would try to, as I mentioned before, bring them into the ecosystem of the company, which isn't something very common in the tech world. And also in general, after the layoffs happened in the tech world, outsourcing became a lot more prominent in the industry, in almost every industry. One of the most important things for companies at the end of the day in order to do well and succeed are having clients. And the hardest part about getting clients are actually getting people into the top funnel of the pipeline. So I saw a huge need for that, which proved itself, and there are a lot of agencies out there offering outbound marketing. And yeah, that's kind of the reason behind it and the need that I saw. I saw that people were looking for clients, and they're willing to pay, and they're willing to outsource it to an agency that knows what they're doing, that knows how to build the systems, that has the know-how to bring people and is able to scale that.
I definitely resonate with that, because as an video agency owner myself, we only started doing outbound sales and lead generation about a little over a year ago. And as soon as we took that step, I was kind of like, what have I been missing this whole time?
Right.
We were just kind of, jumping from referral to referral, and there was no real tangible kind of flow of leads.
Right.
And I think that that's the biggest thing that opened my eyes, is that there's a huge difference from not doing any lead generation to even adding one kind of mode of lead generation. And what you guys are doing is adding kind of multiple verticals. Another thing that I think is important to address, and it's something that I kind of struggled with before I started doing lead generation, is a lot of business owners, your companies are big tech companies, so they're not dealing with this as much, but this is something that I went through, is that I wasn't sure what something like doing LinkedIn lead generation would look like for my business, what doing email marketing would look like on the outside looking into my business, what that would do to my brand image. What would you say to someone who's skeptical about implementing? And we've had this conversation
I was
so
gonna
many
say,
times.
we have this conversation on a daily basis of me wanting to implement more lead generation tactics into your business specifically.
Yeah, so how would you kind of battle, a skeptic that doesn't feel comfortable employing this type of marketing in their business?
Right. Well, I would first really try to understand why. And I would try to show social proof or facts of why these methods have proven effective. And these methods are old methods. I mean, email marketing is old. LinkedIn outbound marketing has been in place for quite a while, a few years now. Cold calling is huge. So I would really try to understand what the reason is, and then kind of try to work backwards, because a lot of people are worried about brand image, credibility, people not getting mad, people not thinking that they're spam, and that's exactly what we work against. In my career, I've never sent a long email where people wouldn't be able to read. Usually we try to stick to between 5 to 10 lines. Same thing on LinkedIn. We do soft sales. One of the biggest challenges is actually brand image, especially where you're working with big tech firms, right? Because they don't want anything going out of their or from their name, and for that not to fit their brand image or brand voice.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's part of working on the strategy with the one-on-one calls and the one-on-one interaction communication, is making sure that you're going to stick to that. So if someone were to come to me with issues or with being skeptical over what we do, then I would try to understand why, and then show them why it wouldn't be that way. I'm a huge believer that outreach works for any type of company. I mean, you're a video company and you've done incredibly well on LinkedIn, and you didn't think so before. You were skeptical over the process and over the automation, etc. And then once you got into it, you saw that it's actually a channel that brings in customers, brings in clients. The more people you speak to, the more people that are in your ecosystem, and the more people you close at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was definitely skeptical. It definitely proved me wrong. And I think that what I would say to anyone that's in my shoes about doing lead generation is, at the end of the day, it's kind of a question of, do you want to make money or do you not want to make money?
I agree.
Like, either you could say you don't want to make money and you don't, step on people's toes, you don't do sales, you don't do outreach, you're not going to make money.
I can think of like literally one or two types of companies that don't need to do outreach, right? Those companies that are reliant on like 2 or 3 customers and their whole company is based off of those 2 or 3 customers. And then even then, I don't understand, why wouldn't you want to expand, right? If you can make X amount of money with 2 or 3 customers, imagine what you could do with 6 or 7. And why wouldn't you want to expand your business in that way?
And I think that once you start making those sales and getting those gains, that kind of outweighs the, I don't know, like how I want to be perceived. I don't know how, I'm perceived, because at the end of the day, you're building your business, you're growing, you're reaching your goals. So it doesn't, as long as you're not doing anything, harmful or bad, then, go for it.
I agree. And people are skeptical of cold outreach, because at the end of the day, if you get a referral and they come to a meeting with you, they already know your credibility. They've heard from someone and they know that you're good at what you do. If you're doing cold outreach, you have a random person from a random place that got a random email or message, and they get on the call, they're like, what do you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for sure, your closing rates are going to go down. But at the end of the day, you're getting on a lot more sales calls. You're going to onboard a lot more customers, and that's inevitable. And you're going to end up growing your business. I mean, it's a step I think everyone should take.
I think that's another thing that's really valuable that we talked about a couple months ago, and you quoted a percentage to me. You said something about, I think it was like 20 or 25% of all of your sales calls are gonna turn into closed deals, right? So if you work back from that, you can literally use that number to take your financial goal and sort of work back from how many sales calls you're having, what your average deal price is, to knowing how many booked calls you have to have every month. And that equates to like a direct kind of game plan for how you can reach your financial goals. And I think that is a huge piece of value that you can offer your clients, is that you literally can kind of set a roadmap up for them to actually hit their financial goals as well, which is something that usually, some businesses don't even really think about that at the start.
100%. I remember us having that conversation a few months back, and we were doing all these calculations and seeing how many calls we need to get on that month, etc. I'm a numbers guy. I believe in statistics, right? Obviously, it varies depending on industry. For me personally, I have about a 25 to 30% close rate with cold prospects that I interact with. So if they get on the initial call, there's about a 25 to 30% close rate from them actually becoming our customer. You just work backwards. You see what's your need, right? Because there's a lot of companies that we can generate, their product offering is good, their product market fit works, we're able to generate X amount of calls, and it's too much, or it's too little, or it's so dependent on the company and what the business's goals are.
A client comes to you looking for outsourced SDR. What is the client journey once they've been onboarded? Obviously, up until they've been onboarded, you're trying to chase them and close a deal with them. But once they've been onboarded, what does it look like? And run me through like a campaign as well.
So I try to make onboarding as easy as possible for the client, because I don't want to bother them too much. There are a few steps that they are involved in, and it takes about a week or two to come up with the strategy in order to make sure that they're also happy, we're able to set it up and everything. After we have agreed on the terms that were discussed, we have a contract signed. Once the contract is signed, we have a mutual NDA signed, so they can hand us any information that would be valuable for us to use. Once we get the NDA signed and we have all the information that we need in order to build a successful messaging, successfully build who we're going to target, because it's a huge part in lead generation, right? If you're wasting your outreach on people who aren't relevant, then you're doing something wrong, right? You should make every email, every LinkedIn, every phone call should count. If the person responds, you should know that there's someone that's going to be valuable that you can hand off to your clients. We talk about the terms, everything is decided. We get all the information sent to us. We start building sequences. We start building all the tech that kind of goes behind outreach. So building the list of people we're going to be targeting, creating the exact characteristics of each person that we're going to be targeting, dividing them into groups, writing different messages for each group. Then once all that process is complete in terms of strategy, in terms of how many people are you going to go after every month, what's going to be the messaging you're going to send to them, we send that over to the client for approval. Once we get approval, it takes us about a week to have everything set up. So we connect into their systems, we have our system set up, and then we start. So it's about a 2-week onboarding period, I would say. That's usually what I like to commit to.
Okay, and so for example, if you're going to be doing, let's focus in on LinkedIn lead generation, what does that mean? Like, is it coming from a profile? Is it posts on a company page? Is it message? Like, what does LinkedIn outreach mean for anyone that doesn't know what that is?
So LinkedIn outreach is we get authority over our client's profile and we help them do outreach towards relevant people. So for example, let's say you want to reach out to, let's say for me, for example, I target chief revenue officers in the US for startups over between 11 and 50 employees, right? That's my ideal target market. Let's say I want to target those. I'll make a list of all those people in the US and then I'll build a strategy based on that list. Then you do a little bit of research. You see what's their pain point that they're suffering from at this moment, right? And then you are going to write the messaging and you target those people on LinkedIn. So you connect with them, you write them a message, you write them an email, you join their groups, you post on their profile, you interact with them. It needs to be human. The human behavior here is super essential. If you're just going to be using automation, you're going to fail, or you're going to get low results compared to what you can do. And then you're just wasting potential leads, right? And then what it looks like is we target them, we interact with them, and we try to bring them onto a call with either myself or my clients directly.
Is that where your work ends, or do you guys offer anything after that as well?
TBD. My goal, and I know we're probably going to get into this a little bit later, but my goal is really to offer the entire sales cycle as a service. Right now, what I consider a conversion is someone showing interest, someone knowing about my client's company, and them agreeing to get on a sales call with my client, right? As soon as I hand that lead off, and the way we work is based on a qualified showed lead, that's what a conversion is for Marlon currently.
That gets on the call,
yes,
and they're good. They're not a random person. Yes. They fit the client profile.
They fit the client profile. They heard about the company, and they show up to a call to hear more. They want to learn more about your company, and you integrate them into your ecosystem.
What are the success metrics that you give your clients? Like, how do they know that working with you is a success for them? Is it closed deals? Is it people getting on calls? Is it what is it exactly?
As an agency owner, obviously, the metrics we rely on is actually people coming to a call. What I really care about is my client having conversions. So if they're not getting conversions, they're not going to stay. In essence, you are tracking. We don't directly track conversions, but that is essentially the most important part, because the whole initiative should be revenue driven, right? You should be making money out of working with Marlink. You should be having X amount of prospect meetings, X amount of closes, and then you know that your outsourced channel for SDRs is covering itself. That's the goal.
What has been one of the biggest challenges in building and scaling your agency? And this doesn't necessarily have to be connected to, like, it can also be like a personal challenge that you've faced in building the agency.
100% delegating tasks. I'm such a control freak when it comes to my agency. And I mean, if anyone that knows me in my personal life, I'm a super go with the flow type of person. But when it comes to my agency and doing things that are customer facing, I'm a control freak. It's so hard for me to let go. And because of that, sometimes I do overwork myself in terms of working hours, etc. Like, I've basically devoted my life to my agency. And I think that's something that has kind of stunned, maybe not stunned our scalability, but I definitely want to be able to delegate better. And that's something I'm working on in my career. I think it's super important. Maybe one of the most important parts of owning an agency, right? Knowing how to train people, knowing how to set what they need to do, and then being able to trust them with that and being able to find the right people to do that. Because alone, there's only so much you can grow. So I think hiring and delegating work is definitely one of my biggest challenges.
Mm-hmm. I think that any agency owner that you ask that is offering some sort of high quality service and really cares about the business would have a similar similar answer. Let's get into what kind of the next 5 years look like for Marlink. And you kind of hinted at this, but what are your goals for the agency? What do you want to build as a service for your clients in the coming years?
In general, with lead generation, there's always new tactics, there's always new regulations, there's always new strategies. So you always have to be on top of that and perfect what you're doing. What I did a week ago with LinkedIn doesn't work today. right? And there was a huge issue. So now we're working on solving that problem and building a new strategy out for all our clients on LinkedIn. Where I see myself in the next 5 years, that's a great question. I see myself being a bigger part of the sales process, focusing a little bit more on inbound, and possibly bringing the prospects into our clients' hub in a more final stage, right? So working a little bit more on intent, working a little bit more on being able to scale what we're currently doing for clients.
What do you mean by intent?
Buyer's intent, right? Like how ready are they to buy the product? Basically put them in a further stage. Right now we're supplying SQLs, which is a sales qualified lead, being able to bring them in a little bit tighter in the funnel. But that's pretty far-fetched where we currently are, because all our clients do have an internal closer. So that's usually the closer's job to take someone from an SQL into a client or conversion.
So you guys are looking to potentially bring that service in-house to close deals,
Right.
directly for your clients under the service of Marlink.
Right, especially for smaller companies. I think the bigger tech companies are always going to prefer us bringing in the leads, and they're going to be closing it themselves. But I work with a lot of smaller companies as well, specifically in the consultancy space, and I think they would really benefit from having a closer assigned to them as well.
That kind of brings me on to the next thing that I wanted to ask you about. Why is it better for clients to outsource their SDR work to an agency like yours versus having someone in-house?
If you were to hire someone and train someone, or even bring someone trained, for sure he's going to have the know-how, but he's still using your tools and he's still using your in-house strategies. And it's when you outsource an agency, and I think this is really why agencies kind of had such a big boom in the past year or two. My know-how in-house and what my team does to build strategies for our clients and to build everything that goes behind it is with years of experience. I mean, at the end of the day, we're taking our know-how of what works and what's new in the industry and the new trends, and we're implementing that for each client. Obviously, every client has a very different strategy, but at the end of the day, the back end is the same. The way we send emails out, the way we send LinkedIn messages out, the way we interact with people, the way we source all of our contacts, everything is it changes over time. I mean, even the softwares you use change, right? Like, we're not bound to a specific software, because if I'm using one software today and tomorrow there's a better one, like, guess what? I'm going to that better software without thinking twice.
Yeah, and I think as an agency owner, you're kind of living and breathing sales and outreach, and you're kind of on the cutting edge of what's going on versus someone who could work in-house but maybe doesn't have the same passion or expertise and doesn't look at it as in the same way that
at the end of the day, we're really representing, especially Marlink is with our whole mission statement, being an in-house team. We basically allow our clients to extend their arms, right? We allow them to use our expertise in-house, because we're not gonna even send a message or go on a phone call or approach someone without your approval and without you knowing exactly what we're doing, which I think is a huge differentiator between our agency and other agencies in the market currently.
What are the main industries that your clients are in? Tell us, like, you don't have to say names, but give me an idea of what, like, the companies that you work with.
Yeah, so we're pretty big in tech, specifically SaaS companies. All our clients are B2B. So all our clients are businesses approaching other businesses. I personally love the consultancy space because I feel like I'm a part of that space and I know the results it gets for me. So I love working with consultants, and my experience working with consultants specifically in the US, they're easy people to work with. They know their target audience and they know what they want to say. And they're content with results as well. I love working with manufacturers. I love working with any company that wants to implement an outbound strategy. There are industries that we prefer working with, but primarily we work with B2B SaaS companies, manufacturing companies, and consultancy.
Is there an industry that you've noticed, not an industry, company size that is more optimal to do the kind of lead generation that you guys are doing, or it works for absolutely everyone?
It's more about the product market fit and us knowing the pain points that we are approaching these profiles with. So okay, I guess the bigger the company is, the more they have a defined audience, right? And they know what their pain points are, and the more they have internal research. Maybe also from a brand image, it matters a little bit. Like if people already know about your company, like obviously if you're reaching out to people from Google Ads, they know what Google Ads are. Mm-hmm. And if you convince them to get on a call, then they're going to get on a call. But I think both are projects that are interesting. I have a lot of clients, by the way, that come to me kind of testing out their product market fit. So we change our audiences a lot and we find what works best, which those are fun projects for me to personally work on because I get to interact very closely with my customers and we're able to generate results together.
Do you find that they ever change their product offering or service as a result of working with you throughout the process?
Yeah, I actually had that recently with a client where we kind of shifted the whole company. Really? No, it's not shifting the offering, but it's shifting the way you market it, right? Like the use case shifted completely and we're actually getting probably 7 or 8 times the results we were getting before because the people weren't reacting to it. The people didn't resonate with the offer and now they do. So that was actually a really cool change that we had that happened recently this month.
How does that kind of affect the way that you write sales copy as well? Like how does the process of writing sales copy look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we have a structure that we use, but there's no one size fits all in sales copies. It's actually a complicated question because it really does change with every client, but you have a structure where you're, presenting yourself, you're showing what you do, right? What your company does, what problem that's going to solve for them. And then we do something called a lead magnet. So a lead magnet is something that captures their attention. And that also has to do with the call to action. But the lead magnet can be a case study, can be sending them a blueprint of something, can offer them some sort of something that gets their attention and makes them say like, oh, wow, yeah, like let's do that, right? Not just let's get on a call. Like no one just wants to get on a call, you know what I mean? You have to be very persuasive. And we like to be soft with our call to actions. Like our call to actions can be, can we send you this case study, right? Do you want to learn more about the product offering? Do you want to learn more about this company? Have you heard about us?
Mm-hmm. Without giving too much value or tricks away, can you, like for example, you've told me about how you guys used to offer like Amazon gift cards to attend, a webinar or something like that. Can you kind of run me through some different kind of hacks that you guys use for your clients?
Yeah, so we were doing Starbucks gift cards for a while, but those are more for if you bring people to like a webinar, like, hey, have this free coffee, or here's a coffee voucher for you to enjoy while you attend the webinar. And that's kind of.
And why would you be trying to get them to sign up to the webinar?
Because when they sign up to the webinar, if you get people to sign up to a webinar, then they learn something about your company, something new about the industry, and then they're likely to actually turn into a sales qualified lead.
So it's just part of a sales funnel.
It's part of the sales funnel. It's a very successful part of the sales funnel, actually. If you're able to generate a successful webinar, get people to come, you not only become thought leaders in that specific industry, but you're also able to then follow up with them and they're in your pipeline, right? And that's a very soft call to action, like, hey, attend this webinar, learn more about this topic. And then they come, they see what the topic is, they see what you're offering, and then you push them into your pipeline.
You push them or you guide them?
You guide them.
You guide them nicely. Okay, well, we're kind of running up on the end of our time, but one last question that I wanted to ask you. You always give me like pointers like, now we're doing this, now we're doing this, because the trends are always like in terms of sales copy, the trends are always changing. A while back you were telling me, long messages aren't so great. Then, I think that you said that long messages were kind of coming back into fashion. What?
It's literally a fashion. It changes every day.
So March 25th, 2024, what is like best practices for sales copy on LinkedIn?
I would definitely say that there's a trend where longer messages are coming back in. LinkedIn is really, you have to create touch points on LinkedIn. You have to engage with people. If you just send people a long 30-40 line essay with intro 3, body paragraphs and conclusion. 5-paragraph essay. You're not getting anywhere. You have to differentiate yourself between all the people that currently do it in the market. So you have to get creative. You have to do your research. I think the number one thing right now is research, because if you do research and you're able to approach people with an immediate need that they have, then you won. right? Not one, but you get their attention. I'm a huge believer of the 5 to 10 line on email, like 2 to 5 on LinkedIn, where you're able to get your message across, you're able to show your value, but you're not giving out too much information, and you address them wanting to teach them something, right? You address them with a mutual value. By someone getting on a call with you, you're not the only one gaining value, right? If you believe in your product, you're bringing some value to the table. So what's the best way for you to express that? And that's really different for every single company, I would say.